Hey everyone, welcome to Neil Talks. My name's Neil and it's time to talk QI. And this is another viewer recommendation. In a weird way, this is an overdue viewer recommendation. Not that weird, I suppose. The fact is sometimes I can't read my own notes. So as I go through the comments section and I write down recommendations that go on a little notepad, and I have a doctor style scrawl, and sometimes I read my notes wrong. And somebody recommended this episode to me a long time ago, but I thought what I wrote down was Series M Episode 5. And what I should have written down was Episode 6. So I'm finally correcting that mistake and tackling Episode 6 from Series M. This one is called Marriage and Mating.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to celebrate marriage and mating. The ministerial Bill Bailey.
Nice. We love Bill.
The matchmaking Greg Davies.
Oh, awesome. Hello, hello.
The maid of honor Joe Brand.
Oh, excellent. All-star cast.
And must we really invite him out?
We must.
You'll recognize that, Bill, being an animal man.
Should I? Is that an animal?
Woodpecker?
It's an amphibian.
It's a frog of some kind.
It's a marine toad. Joe goes,
I do actually go there.
well, that was a moose. It's been a few
Squirrel?
years since I did that. Spider monkey, of course. Alan goes, hello, darling. You all right? That's the mating call of... Where do you come from, Alan, again?
Essex.
Yeah. What's the recipe for a disastrous marriage?
The vicar.
A live vicar, lovely couple, escaped Bengali tiger.
Let's think first about budget.
Oh, is it the more expensive, the less likely you're to stay
Doesn't
together?
necessarily mean you're going to have a happier marriage.
It's actually, the more you spend, the shorter the marriage.
Huh?
Yes.
Really?
Isn't that
Oh.
extraordinary?
They
Well, it
correlate.
should be over in a couple of weeks.
Those who spent less than $1,000, which is what, £700, had divorce rates 53% below average.
Well, frankly, if you can't afford to get married, you can probably not afford to get divorced either.
But what about numbers who attend weddings? Is that a similar inverse correlation? The more who come, the shorter the
No.
Because of the cost factor.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, the reverse is true. The more people who witness...
Yeah, but I bet you that's skewed by like those cultures that have massive
So
weddings.
you've got to have a cheap wedding with lots of people.
Like Indian weddings are like 400 or 500 people or more, and I suspect divorce rates are low in that culture.
Maybe somewhere like McDonald's in Hong Kong. For $900, you could get 200 guests at a McDonald's.
McDonald's happy marriage.
And it's happy. You get 2 McDonald's balloon wedding
Yeah,
rings.
but how many burgers do you get?
Do point to the bride. Do you love it? I'm loving it.
Ah, well done, Bill. Well done.
We've got a picture of an erection with an onion ring on it.
I get that.
You get a thought out of your head.
No onion rings at McDonald's.
Onion ring coits.
Shouldn't be there in the first place.
We were doing a Secret Santa, right? And it was a £10 limit. There was quite a good adult shop on the Essex Road. And for under £10, the only thing they offered was anal hoopla.
Oh, yeah.
Anal hoopla consists of a stick which goes, guess where?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And 3 hoops. That's...
Tone of this show is so
I'm sorry.
difficult to get right. I'm recalibrating.
Thank you.
That's Klingon for anal hoopla.
Now, what's the longest anyone's ever gone without sex?
I went for a whole panel show once, but I
It's not over yet.
I can't see that happening again. You get to a certain age and you're up for new experiences, Bill.
Yeah, go on. Been with a beardie and never go back. You're talking humans?
No, we're not talking humans.
Of course not.
When we say species have sex, what do we mean by that?
Actually,
Conjoin.
conjoin.
Yeah. The first animal known to have sex as a
Barnacle.
was a fish called Microbachius dicai. Come on. No, it is
Microbrachius what?
Dicko.
Dicki.
D-I-C-K-I. The old dick-eye. The old dick-eye. 380 million years ago was the first creature that we know of to engage in internal organ sex.
Fortunately, it kept a diary.
And during copulation, the male's bony bits stuck to the females like Velcro, which held them together.
Oh, that looks quite sweet, though.
So they had sex sideways.
Well, they lock arms.
And the species' descendants then evolved to stop
Genital
having
plates
sex.
and claspers.
No creature attempted to have internal sex again for between 20 and 40 million years.
It looks like they're wearing blindfolds. There's a bit of 50 Shades, isn't it? Yeah, make me want it. What's that?
Eyes wide shut.
It's superimposed on an ice lolly.
Fudgesicle.
Who's still having sex?
Not me.
Not me.
Not me.
I tell you what, these toads.
Some animals lock together for ages, don't they? Are we in the animal kingdom?
Rhinos go 45 minutes.
The species that most has to be utterly motionless when having sex that we could discover.
Is it nuns?
It's not nuns.
Are they a species?
It's the gold swift moth, and it's at its most vulnerable when mating. But it has a wonderful repertoire of positions, sexual positions. It was unique amongst because you don't want to disturb it. Look, there they are.
Oh, what,
The
you
one on
went
the-
all David Attenborough.
On the left, there is the standard facing position.
Missionary moth.
An extraordinary upside down.
See the tiny moth cock.
Cape moth. Thank you.
Kate moth.
Now for something completely different. Who's still having sex?
The gold fish moth, what was it called?
Gold swift moth.
The gold
Oh,
swift.
the gold swift moth.
Gold-
You get points for remembering.
Oh, is that a thing for Series M?
Yeah, well done you.
Will we get some slightly easier ones, like our names?
This is basically the birth of, I literally just told you.
Well done for remembering something seconds ago.
Is it Neville Chamberlain?
Jimmy Carr was watching this going,
So what was the question?
who's still
What
having
was the
sex?
question?
Who's still having sex?
Yes, well done. You remembered that. The picture, as always, is a complete distraction.
She's washed her smalls.
Old ladies don't wear underwear like that.
That one does.
I think they're her husbands.
It's a fetish.
Another
cult.
animal?
A fetish about having sex with things that are still.
Oh,
Statues?
Yes.
What?
The sculpture
Pygmalion.
begins with P. Pygmalion, exactly. Pygmalion did a sculpture of
Memory.
Very good. Well, a
Thank
fact.
you. That's one person.
The first recorded case, Pliny claimed, we love Pliny, don't we?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Pliny claimed that Praxiteles' naked statue of Aphrodite of Cnidus, which is the first naked female statue.
Yes.
Apparently she had a permanent stain on her leg from where a sailor got carried away. Semen. Semen stains. Yeah, well, it's true. When he found the marble very, very cold, he changed his mind, laid out a piece of meat on the floor and made love to that instead.
It's an incredible jump to make, isn't
It is. A
it? Oh,
species
this
jump.
statue's not working for me. Get me down the butcher's.
Blow-up doll, really, isn't it?
This is a really good point, Joe, because you absolutely...
And from there, it's a small leap to sex robot.
This particular fetish seemed to die away in the 1950s. It was replaced by the love of blow-up dolls as they arrived on the market.
I saw a picture in the paper the other day of a very lifelike woman robot. It's not going to be long.
It isn't, is it?
Wait a minute, that was Theresa May.
Oh. No, thank you.
It was called a galmatophobia. Oh, sorry, philia, rather.
Philia, yeah, not a phobia.
Algatomophobia is the fear of having sex with statues.
Yes. Now, who married Big-Mouthed Margaret?
Dennis.
Who's Margaret and Dennis? Are we going to Dennis the Menace? Like,
If I said Muckle Mode Meg, would that help? Most famous Scottish writer after Robbie Burns.
Walter Scott.
Walter Scott, yes.
Bloody
Brilliant.
hell.
William Scott was Walter Scott's great-great-grandfather, and he stole some cattle off a man. and he was sentenced to be hanged or to marry the man's incredibly, apparently ugly daughter. And William Scott said, I think I'll be hanged.
Oh.
At the very last minute, he changed his mind and he married her. And they had a very happy marriage. And because of it, they had Walter Scott as a...
Well, thank goodness.
Who advised dissecting a woman before marrying one?
I think my husband said something similar.
He was a great writer.
Walter Scott.
No.
Honoré de Balzac.
Pliny.
Honoré de Balzac
I
is
just
the
said
right...
Balzac. I said
did
Balzac.
just-
Yeah.
All right, calm down. He wrote a book in 1829 called The Physiology of Marriage, in which he said a man ought not to marry without having studied anatomy and dissected at least one woman. I mean, a dead woman. He's not
Creepy.
It's just a bit creepy.
So-
I guess it's so he knows what's the bits where they all go.
Yeah, but you don't need to do a dissection to
Hands
figure
my mother
that
a
out.
cup of tea without knowing the workings of her hand.
That's a
It's not very romantic, is it? Darling,
I don't want it to be. She's my
I
mother.
want to...
He said that a man should weaken the will and strength of a wife by tiring her out under the load of constant work.
Oh,
So that she
jeez.
has no energy left to cause trouble. Very weirdly, he said, never allow her to drink water alone. If you do, you are lost.
What?
Yeah.
Clearly just a fucking nutter, isn't it?
He looks like what's his name from the IT crowd. And apparently he believes the same stuff.
Balzac drank 50 cups of coffee a day. I don't know if that excuses him. There's a cup of coffee in case he didn't know what one was.
Well, I'm amazed he was as coherent as he was.
Well, Beethoven always counted out exactly 60 coffee beans for every cup he drank. Kierkegaard, on the other hand, the philosopher, had 50 different coffee cups. Whenever he wanted a cup of coffee, I really want to kill him so much. He instructed his secretary to select one of these cups and provide a valid philosophical reason for doing
Oh, what
so.
is...
He sounds like a right knob.
Yeah.
What do monkeys spend their money on?
Oh, is this about trading for grapes and cucumbers?
Your mandrill DIY.
Honestly.
Surely the macaque would spend it on lavatory paper. They were taught the principles of money and monetary exchange. They were given silver discs and taught that they could exchange them for food.
Really do look at a camera lens, don't they, monkeys?
Yeah, those do.
If you notice there's one of them who's not looking at the camera lens.
Right up the butt.
Why are cappuccins called
Was it
cappuccino?
something to do with...
They look like the monks.
Because they are the same colour as cappuccino, cream colour at the top, dark at the bottom.
But they're both named after the monks.
That's right. It starts with the monks.
Joe's crushing it.
It's impossible to take your eyes off that one. That's imagine what's going on in his head. Sure, mate, you've got a problem back here.
They could buy a certain number of grapes. Once they grasped this, the extraordinary thing was one of the monkeys used their new currency to give to a female to have sex with them. Essentially a prostitute. But there's a separate piece of research in 2005 which involved macaques. That showed that they pay to look at porn.
What?
But the extraordinary thing is only classy porn.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
It's art.
So they would give up their juice to look at the porn of the higher-ranking ones, but they had to be paid to look at the others.
Wow.
Again,
It's
I
not a
know I
moral
say this a
thing.
lot, but who is funding this?
Monkey porn research.
What uses can you think of for a parachute on your wedding day?
Dress.
Yes, it's that simple.
Oh, yeah. Parachute silk, right? The airborne kept their chutes.
It was particularly in World War II. There was a village in 1941 where a German soldier landed with his parachute.
Didn't have a swastika on it, did it? I say, she's got a bloody swastika.
Even if they were, it was great because that village turned them into bloomers.
It's something you don't know about me.
But I tell you an interesting thing about Queen Victoria. Yeah. When she died towards the end of her life,
Why are we whispering?
I feel guilty about telling you.
She won't find out.
She was wider than she was tall.
So, I wore my wedding dress again, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, I went to a fancy dress party as Alaska.
She was 59 inches tall, and she was 66 inches wide.
She was under 5 foot?
No. In circumference.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Sorry, not wide.
Possibly a bit.
No. All the way round was 66.
We're going to have to knock through.
Yeah.
I'll get through any of
That's
that.
not terrible. Pi d is your circumference, so her diameter is only like 21 inches.
66 bucks.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Lumens was sold quite recently for over £6,000.
It's been an enormous swastika.
Almost.
What uses can you think of for a half-naked Frenchman on your wedding night?
If it was the other half, hoopla.
He's about 3 times that size now, isn't he?
He's gone all Victoria, hasn't he?
Le droit de seigneur?
Well, no, it's not that. That's one thing, but...
Not the old blood on the sheet routine.
Well, the blood on the sheet demonstrates what? Consummation.
But it doesn't
Family
have to
here?
be on the first night, does it?
It doesn't have to be the first night, but the first night gets it all out of the way. And we're actually in the world of Henry VIII's sister. She was a Tudor, and her name was Mary. She married Louis XII of France. Louis XII had better things to do on the wedding night. So the Duc de Longueville, he laid a bare leg and thigh on the bed until they touched hers under the covers. All the people there applauded, and that was consummation. Even
What?
though it wasn't even the husband.
What?
So that was a gig then? You could get that as a gig, you know, to sort of touch legs.
Being the proxy.
In the taverns, yeah, I'm leg toucher to the rules.
Yeah. Oh, I touched them all, you
Oh,
know.
I touch them all, eh? Oh.
I think they had to check them medically before they were allowed to do it, though, to make sure they didn't have any sort of venereal disease, because they didn't want a poxy proxy.
I was wondering where she was going with that. Joe's on fire.
Describe the sex chromosomes of the Queen.
No, thank you.
Y's, 2 Y's. An X and a Y. You know.
Yeah.
The one doesn't have chromosomes. One has a chromosome proxy, you know.
Generally speaking, human beings have how many pairs of chromosomes?
23.
Yeah, we have 23, which is not as many as a potato. And one of those pairs determines our sex, our gender. If you're a female, you're XX.
What, if you got YY, what are you then? What, George?
I'll tell you what, you're...
Infertile.
If you have a male child inside you, it has XY chromosomes, of course, and a little bit of that XY chromosome will lodge inside the mother and stay there.
Makes you more likely to like football.
Yeah. Prince Philip was in the school, children were showing him, and they were saying, if you inspect the genes, you can tell the gender. And Prince Philip said, well, can't you just pull them down?
Matt Smith.
How many legally recognized political parties are there in China?
1.
Seems too obvious.
None?
Ah, you see, you've played this game a lot, you think you know.
No.
But no.
There are actually 8 other parties other than the Communist Party. Oh. There they all are.
Day release from prison.
What's the maximum number of children allowed in every family in China?
It's not one.
Who's going to go? Do it.
Not anymore.
One.
Bill's a good sport. Taking one for the team.
But it was never all the people of China, all the families of China who were affected. 36% of the population were subject to a one-child rule. And I'd be very impressed if you knew the country in the world with the highest birth rate.
It'll
This country's
be
an anagram of what Queen Elizabeth does.
Nigel.
Niger.
Yes!
Yeah.
Wow!
Yeah. Joe is on fire.
Now, name a monogamous bird.
Me.
Swan.
Ravens are supposed to be monogamous.
Penguin. Penguin from the audience. Oh, does the audience want one?
Oh, minus 10 to the audience.
That's a clever now. No, it's a nun. It's a nun.
I mean, the only one we've come up with is the black vulture, where you do genetic tests.
No.
Very proud, handsome.
Hard enough landing one of them.
He is monogamous.
He's
Not by
there.
choice. Ducks are, they're dirty sods.
Ducks are
Also
rapists.
black swans in particular. 1 in 6 cygnets is the result of extra pair copulation. Because of the flatworm diplozoon paradoxum. When a male meets a female, they actually fuse together, so they don't really have any choice in the matter. And voles. That's very sweet. You look at how can you not love a vole?
Owl can hear the heartbeat of a vole or
A shrew.
I would say when it's 4 feet underground, when it's flying overhead. That makes
They say they can anyway. Yeah.
If I was an owl, I'd be bragging about it.
Apparently they're really thick.
They're not as wise as people have been going on about, have they? Barn owls are really stupid. They don't even know where they live. Yeah. That's the habitat built into the name. You know?
Many supposedly monogamous birds have a little tit on the side. Who can marry you at sea?
The captain of the ship.
Ship's entertainer.
No, I don't.
Great, isn't it?
Elvis impersonator on board.
Where's that come from then? Why do I know that to be true?
Good God. I can't marry you, but I can have a bloody good go.
The things I can do with this moustache, you wouldn't believe, madam.
I actually played hoopla with this moustache.
Once I bring the pipe into play, you'll be begging for mercy.
The only country we could find where it is true that the captain can marry is Japan. Yeah, but the couple has to be Japanese as well.
He's punching above his weight, that fella, isn't he?
What? Aren't they the ones that were in McDonald's earlier?
I think they do look like it. In first place, the blindingly anagrammatically factually gifted Joe Brand with 7 points.
Only 7. After all of that.
What a debut with -4. It's great! With a mighty -13 is Bill Bailey.
And he took one for the team at least.
But never knowingly out-hopeless with -32 is Alan Davies. Marriage is like a hurricane. It starts with all that sucking and blowing, and in the end you lose your house. Good night.
Well, I'm glad I finally got around to that one, because I feel like I need to at least be a completist with my Bill Bailey episodes, with him being my favorite QI guest, period. I'll take Greg Davies every time, because I'm a Taskmaster loyalist. And I haven't seen a format yet where Greg doesn't seem to fit in. I think he does so well on Would I Lie to You? He does well on QI. I can't say I've seen him on other things, but he just seems to be a good guest. And apparently, he hasn't done a panel show yet where he hasn't gotten laid, so kudos. And Joe was on freaking fire this episode. She just it was in her wheelhouse. It was. I think this was one of those like genuinely surprising episodes. Like sometimes you get a guest and the questions are tailored to that guest. I'm thinking the Giles Brandreths of the world, that sort of thing. But I don't feel like these questions were tailored to Joe. She just happened to like be on the ball and had a smart breakfast or something. I don't know. But I am with Alan. I wonder what she had that morning that set her up for such a strong performance. In any case, what a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me for a little bit here today. Love your support. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're interested in checking out my full-length reactions, I do a full uncut version on my Patreon. You do need your own copy, but I provide the link to the YouTube videos. It's a great way to support the channel if you're so inclined. If you've ever thought about checking one out, maybe consider doing that today. And until next time, everybody, take care, stay healthy, we'll see you soon. Cheers.